I'm doing a new first today. I'm going to build my first computer. I have the side panels already off and ready to go, and all of my parts are laid out. Let's see what happens. So I went ahead and mounted the power supply with the screws that it came with. Now I'm going to install the optical drive. There's two little tabs in the back. I'm going to pinch on them and it pops right off. So now I will install the optical drive. All I have to do is put it in here and be patient with it, maybe. Okay, so let's continue to be patient and just slide it in some more, maybe. And, where's that click? I'm looking for that click. Isn't that? There we go. Now it's stuck in there. I didn't need to use any tools. It just snaps right in. So this is the other side of the case. Now I'm going to put in the hard drive through this little sled thing. This is what the hard drive looks like on one side and the other. Okay, so I've tilted the hard drive on its side. You can see that there's 3 holes on the side. There are these 2 sleds that I need to attach. They both have 2 prongs on them, so I will attach them to the hard drive. Okay, so now the hard drive has the 2 sleds attached to it. They're just 2 pieces of plastic. Then I'm going to slide it into the tray and just make it click. The next step is to install this little piece of metal into this place. This is called the I/O shield. It labels the inputs and the outputs of the motherboard. So I put the I/O shield in from the inside and I just pushed on it until it clicked into place. At this point, I've taken off the side panels. I have installed the optical drive, the hard drive, the power supply, and the I/O shield, and I have not plugged anything in, and now we're going to get to the motherboard. Here's the motherboard. It's on the cardboard box for a non-conductive surface. We see the dual channel memory, we see where the CPU will go, we see all the inputs and outputs. This is a CPU. It's the brain of the computer. It's the processor. This is the fan that comes with it. Not everyone uses the fan that comes with it. Some of them buy other fans. This part requires 2 hands and it's delicate, so I can't really show it to you. But essentially what I need to do is pop off this black cap and then put in the processor. I pushed down on this, it popped it open, I put the processor in, I put it back down, and I put this back underneath, and then it popped the black cap. Make sure to not throw away this black cap, because if you ever need to send back the motherboard, this is required to be with it for most of the companies, so do not throw it away. The next step for me is to install the fan. There are 4 things that need to attach to the motherboard. If we go over here, we see that there's 1 hole, 2, 3, and 4. In addition to knowing where it needs to hook into, we also need to know where the power hooks into. So if we look on the motherboard, there's a header here that says CPU fan. Something else worth noting is that it has this pre-applied gray paste on it, which I believe is to make it so that the heat is even among this surface. I gently lowered the fan into place, keeping in mind the power supply and the header, and then all it has is a click like this. Now that I've plugged in the fan, it is all installed. When you're putting the motherboard in, you have to make sure that you have enough standoffs in your case for your motherboard, just in case. And then we have 6 on there, and we have 6 in the case. Installing the motherboard was not that easy. What I needed to do was to gently push it up against the I/O shield, and then I was able to get it in the standoffs. After I put the motherboard in and attached it to the standoffs and made sure that it was aligned with the I/O shield, I then put in screws to make sure that it is secure. The next thing I'm putting in is the RAM, random access memory. Now I made a rookie mistake and I bought 1 when I meant to buy 2 to make a dual channel. This is an 8 GB 1600 megahertz. When we look at this stick of memory, we see that there's a little indent right there in the middle. And we also see that where we're going to put it in these 2 slots here, that there's also a dent missing. So again, if I put this in this way, it's not going to work and it's going to damage stuff. But I need to turn it around to make sure that this lines up with the slot. The starting position for the motherboard RAM slots is for them to be up and locked, but I need to press it down to open it up. And then I can put in the RAM. So at this point, all I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up carefully, and then I'm going to slide it in, and then I pop it down on both sides, and then it'll click. So I already did the other side, so let's do this one. There we go. It's already installed. I'm going to go ahead and install this graphics card. Now you can see this is the width of 2 of these slots over here. I don't know what they're called. But for this case, they're not reusable. Now because these pieces are not reusable, I'm just going to have to bend it until it snaps off like this. This is, can't use it anymore. Now the video card is going to go into this. So the graphics card is going to plug into what is called the PCI Express port, which is right here. And mine in particular needs 2 of these things broken off, so I'll need to break off the other one. Just like with the RAM, the graphics card also has these little indents on the parts that you're going to plug into the computer. And we see here on the motherboard that they also have the indent. So I put the graphics card into place. I press down gently so that it's secure. And you can see on the side here, those 2 things that I broke off, what has replaced those slots. I'm going to go ahead and install something extra. This is a wireless adapter for the computer. There's an extra PCI Express port right behind the big one, and that's where I'm going to put it. I went ahead and installed that wireless adapter in the extra PCI Express, and we see here that we have 3 things that need screws, and we also see the back. Now we're at the tricky part of putting in the power cables and the data cables. Now this one comes right out of the box, and it'll go into this slot right here. If you look on the motherboard, there's SATA ports. This has an L-shaped port, and it'll connect data. I've connected 2 SATA cables to my motherboard, and on the other side of those cables is the optical drive and the hard drive on the other side of this. These wires control the front panel. You can see what they are because they're labeled. This weird one is a USB 3.0 cable, and we will plug all into the motherboard. You know where the cables go on the motherboard because they are labeled as well. You can see here that says HD audio, and then over here, it's kind of hard to see, but it says panel 1. Another thing to point out is that this is the HD audio cable. It is missing an area there. If we look on the motherboard, it is also missing, it's hard to tell, but it is missing a pin. All of these little cords are a pain in the butt to do. They're very small, and they're all for the front panel, including things like the power button and stuff like that. In order to understand which little thing goes into which pin, I had to look at the manual for the motherboard, and then I figured it out. You can barely see it, but right underneath the SATA cables is a USB 3 pin area for the front section, and this is what that looks like. Power supplies come with a variety of cables, including ones like this that plug into things like the hard drive and the optical drive. So when talking about things like the optical drive and the hard drive, you need 2 plugs to go in there. One is the data cable and one is the power cable. At this point, everything's just about plugged in, except for this up here. There's a 4-pin, and I've been sitting here for 15 minutes trying to figure out how to make it from this 8-pin. Well, as we all already know, I'm an idiot, and I saw this, and there's a line there, and I was trying to figure out if I could take it apart without breaking it. Well, I can. All I needed to do is pull it apart, and now I have 2 4-pins, so now I can just plug it in to this one right up here that I need. Now everything should be plugged in for real. There should be data running through the motherboard, all this different stuff, so now it's time for a test boot. Now it's for the moment of truth. I have everything plugged in, including my monitor, and here we go. Just kidding, what did I just tell you about me being an idiot? First of all, I have to plug on this switch, and then I can do this one. Let's see. Okay, now that we've turned on the power supply, now let's try it. And let there be light, yes! See the fan spinning? In addition to the fan spinning, we also have this. Reboot and select proper boot device. This is what we want. Yes! Before I put on the side panels though, I'm going to do some cable management in the back so it doesn't look so messy and horrible. I thought that I had managed my cables pretty well until I tried to put the side panel on and it didn't fit. So now I'm going to try to arrange it over here a little bit. I would have liked it to look a little bit different over here, but I would really had to try to get the side panel on, and this was the main problem, but you can't do anything about that. So I put the other panel on. It uses thumb screws, so you don't need any tools to put that on. And now here's the inside of the computer. Before I put on the other side panel, I have to do something that most people love to do. These are thumb screws. You don't need any tools to put them in, but you do need eyesight, which apparently I do not have. Okay, there we go. And now for a final touch. Here we go. Yeah. For the wireless adapter that I installed earlier, it comes with 2 antennas that I just need to screw into the back, and then it'll be ready to go. When you build a computer, it will not come with an operating system, so I went ahead and bought the latest version of Windows. So then I put it in the optical drive. You can also do this by USB.